Hello everyone, good morning. Can anyone please confirm am I audible or not? Yeah, last class where we stopped. Let me open our folder. Local history, my classes. This is the one, right? Yeah. Last class we discussed about positions, right? Okay. So far, any questions? HTML and CSS. So far, what we discussed? Any questions? You can unmute yourself. You can talk. No issues. Okay. Content-wise, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay then. See, if the content, if you say this, so HTML and HTML5. HTML5 is like an advanced one. Okay, here some extra things they added. Extra things have they added. Okay, here this is the HTML. Before HTML5, how many versions are there? All are like we can consider like a HTML only. Okay, the updated version is like HTML5. Here some new elements they added. Okay, some semantic elements they added, some new input controls they added. Input controls. Okay, so for example, if you want to write text box, how you can write it? Input type equals to text. That is introduced before HTML5. Okay, for example, I want one date field. Okay, then that time how we can write it? My input type equals to date like this. Date. Okay, this input field they introduced in HTML5. Okay, like this, some of the semantic elements is nothing but by seeing that element you can say like, yes, this element contains which type of content. By seeing that element you can say like that element contains which type of content. For example, one element is the header. Okay, by seeing this element you can say like, what, this is my web application header related content, it contains or not, like this you can say. Okay, footer element is there. Footer. Okay, by seeing this element you can say like, what, inside this footer element my web application footer content we can place, like this you can understand. For example, nav is there, one nav element is there. Navigation one place to another place, how we can navigate? By using routing. Okay, that is like menu or not. Okay, by seeing this element you can say like which type of content it element contains. Okay, that type of elements we can call like a semantic elements. Like that, some semantic elements they introduced. Okay, some of the new input controls they introduced, some of the attributes they introduced. Okay, attributes. Okay, the next one is like some of the audio tags and video tags. One is like audio. Okay, these are like new tags. Video tags, these are like media tags. Audio and video. Okay, some graphics tags also they introduced, SVG and canvas. Okay, new things they introduced, that's it. One version to another version is nothing but what? Okay, updated version contains some another new features they may introduce. Okay, these are the new features they introduced in HTML5. Okay, that is the one. Okay, come to the content one. HTML and CSS, these two parts completed. Now let's go with JavaScript one. Okay, let's start. These are the topics required for our React. Okay, I'm not telling like these only the topics in JavaScript. Okay, there are multiple topics are there in JavaScript. Okay, but these topics are required for our React, so that these only the topics we are going to discuss. Okay, let's start. Okay, in JavaScript, for example, if you want to store some data, any programming language you can take. If you want to store some data, I have some data, Sachin. Okay, how we can store this data for future purpose. Any programming language, how we can store it? By using variables or not. By using variables, you can create one variable, you can assign your data to that variable, and you can use that variable wherever you want or not. Okay, how my variable is looks like? My variable syntax, any programming language if you take, the first one is like what? Data type. Okay, the next one is like what? My variable name. Variable name. The next thing is like my initial value or not. Initial value. Initialization value. Initialized value or not. Okay, these three parts. One is like data type and variable name and initializing value. But here the thing is, some of the programming languages, if you take, my data type is like a mandatory syntactically. Some of the programming languages, if you take, the data type is mandatory. Some of the scripting language, some of the languages are like this data type is not a mandatory one. It's like optional one. Okay, see some of the programming language like C if you take. Okay, if you write like inside C, a equals to 10. If you write like this, then that it gives me an error, data type missing. So that you should have to specify the data type like this or not. If a equals to 10 like that. Okay, not only C, C++ or Java, .NET, these all are like what? Syntactically, you should have to do like, you should have to write like first your data type and then your variable name. Okay, this initialized value is like an optional one. Okay, if you take like Java or .NET, int a, it's a valid statement. It's a valid statement. There is no initialized value, nothing is there. The default value for init is like int value is like 0. So that by default value is like a value is like 0, like that. Okay, data type and variable name and initialized value. Data type is the mandatory for some of the programming languages like Java, .NET. Okay, these all are like. Okay, but here, for example, in Java, I created one variable like int a equals to 10. Yes, it's a valid one. It's a valid one. Okay, here the console is only for JavaScript, right? So that it gives me an error. Okay, int a equals to 10. It's a valid one. Otherwise, I can write here int a equals to 10. It's a valid one. But here, if you write like my int x equals to Sachin, int x equals to Sachin, it's valid or not in Java or .NET or C. It's not a valid one. Why? Because my integer data type can hold like how much, okay, 4 bytes data only or not, how much size data it can hold, 4 bytes only, but for my string it requires like 8 bytes. So that it gives me like an error, type mismatching error, a compile time error, you can get it, type mismatch error. So that you should have to follow like strict. Okay, type is like int, you have to follow like strict which type of value we can hold, that type of value only have to pass or not. Okay, these are like type strict or not. Int a is nothing but just you have to pass like 10 only, you can assign initialize with 10 only. Okay, if you want like string, then you can create one more variable with the data type of string and name equals to such, like this you can, like this you can. Okay, these all are like type strict, my Java, my .NET, my C and my C++. Okay, some of the programming languages are there like PHP, like PHP. In PHP, for example, if you want to create a variable, how we can create dollar, okay, name equals to such, like this. Here there is no type, nothing. If you observe, there is no type, nothing. Here the same value, the dollar name equals to 10 also you can assign. Can also you can assign. Okay, here there is no type, nothing. Okay, the variable it can hold any type of data. The variable which can hold any type of data. Okay, it's like a PHP, it's like scripting programming language. There is no type, nothing is there. There has one more scripting programming language is that Python is there. Python. Okay, here also, if you want to create a variable, simply a equals to 10. Yes, there is no type, nothing. So my a can hold any type of data here, any type of data. By using this variable, we can hold either number data or string data or list or set. Okay, any type of data we can hold it. Same like that, my JavaScript also. My JavaScript also, it's not a type strict. Okay, you can create a variable a equals to 10 simply. Here my data type is not a mandatory, it's an optional one. Here data type itself not there. Here data type is like a mandatory one. Okay, which type of data? Okay, the data type of this particular variable is like which type, that type of data only we have to assign. Okay, other types data if you assign, then the time you can give that compile time error, type mismatching error. Okay, same like this, another programming language, another scripting language is like a JavaScript one. Here also type is not a mandatory, it's an optional one. You can create a variable like this. It can hold any type of data. It can hold any type of data. You can write anything. It's a number, yes, A can hold it, such a string hold it, array, it can hold it, object, it can hold it. Like this, different data types are there or not, different types of data is there or not, true Boolean data. Okay, anything you can pass it. Got it or not? Okay, here the mandatory thing is what? The mandatory thing is like variable name and initialized value. Okay, now come here. Now come here. If it is like a JavaScript, now see my console is simply working like what? JavaScript working environment or not. Here, if you want to create a variable, it's a scripting programming language. Here there is no type. Okay, this is not a type strict one. So you can create a variable a equals to 10. Yes, the same variable can I write like a Sachin? Can I write like a Sachin? Yes, it can hold it. See, my a value is like 10, my x value is like Sachin. Got it or not? Here is there any type is there for my a? My a not only a number, for my a you can hold any type of data or not. I'm going to hold with Tony now. Is there any error is there? My previous 10 is override by Tony. So here there is no type, nothing. There is no type, nothing. But if you want to declare a data type for this particular variable, we have only one data type is there. Only one data type is there, that is called as a var is the data type. Okay, another one is like let and constant also there. First concentrate on this var is the data type. If this var not there also, yes, this is only the proof, there is no problem at all. There is no problem at all. Now, when you go for var means very simple thing. I want to declare one variable. I don't want to initialize at this point of time. Then the time you can go with the var. For example, I want to declare one variable. I don't want to initialize. Okay, I don't want to initialize. In the past, such is there. If you want to reset your console, just refresh your page. Refresh your page. Now page got refreshed. Now I'm going to put like my variable like x. Now if you put like this, see, it gives me an error like what? Uncaught reference error, x is not defined. Okay, if the data type var is not there, my variable should be initialized, then only it is going to work. Like what? Syntactically it's correct. Syntactically it's correct. Here there is no initialized value, nothing is there. Syntactically it's not correct. At least if there is no initialized value is there, you have to specify your variable with your data type. What is my data type in the data type? Where is my data type in your JavaScript? Let is there, constant is there, you can put at least. Now it's syntactically it's a valid one. Syntactically it's a valid one. I don't want to specify, I don't want to initialize any variable. I want to create one variable is nothing but syntactically you should have to specify the data type. If you not specify the data type, then the type this one is gives me like what? Syntactical error. What is my error here? X is not defined is my error. Understand or not? Okay, so how we can create one variable in JavaScript? Simply data type is like var. After that you can create your variable name. If you don't want to initialize, just you can place like this, no issues. If you want to initialize some value, just you can create one variable, you can initialize the value like this. Okay, here you created one variable, there is no initialization, nothing. Then the time what is the default value for my y? Okay, here if you see here in Java, if you create one variable with int data type, if you not put any data, then the time my default value for my int is like 0. For example, if you put like a string one, okay, string one num n equals to, there is no value, nothing, then the time the default value is like a null like this. Here also your, can anyone confirm remaining people? Is it audible or not properly? It's audible, right? Okay. Now see, where y, there is no initialized value, nothing. Okay, what is the default value? My y is like undefined. My y is like undefined. Here, anyway, the initialized value is there, so that my value is like what? 10. See here, my y is like what? Undefined. Now, what is the difference between this undefined, this undefined, this undefined? Means, see, in your console, okay, you are writing your programs now onwards. All your programs you are going to write inside the console only. My console is simply working like JavaScript working environment. Okay, see here. In the past, you know about the we discussed about the elements tab. My elements tab contains what? All your HTML content in the left side, in the right side, CSS. Okay, here my console, here my console and source is there. Why we go for source? At the time of loading your URL, with that URL, how many files and folders loaded? That files and folders we can see inside the console or not. And another purpose also there, that is for debugging purpose, we'll see later. Here the console we are going to use it for what? It is simply working like JavaScript working environment. Okay, here you can execute any type of program. Now onwards, if you want to practice really JavaScript, nothing is required. There is no need to open notepad or something. Okay, no need to save that file like a JS, no need to run it. Directly open your browser. Okay, open your developer window. Okay, how you can open this developer window? Right click on your browser. Okay, just click on inspect. Then the time you can see this developer window. Inside this developer window, you can go to the console. Inside this console, okay, you can execute any type of JavaScript program. Any type of JavaScript program you can execute here directly. Okay, how my browser get this feature? How my browser knows about the JavaScript? Means I already told to you the vendors of these particular browsers. Okay, for example, this is the Chrome one. Who is the vendor? Google one. Okay, that guy at the time of developing this particular browser, he added okay one of the library, one of the API called as a browser API, web API they loaded. JavaScript library they loaded, as well as not only JavaScript, W3 people, whatever the tags they provided, that one also he loaded. Okay, CSS also he loaded, so that by default my browser can understand these three things. One is like HTML and CSS and JavaScript. It can understand. Got it or not? So my console now onwards we are going to use for what? To write your JavaScript programs. Just create one variable where x equals to 10. This is one way. The next one is what? Y equals to 20. This is one way. The next one. Okay, z equals to nothing. This is also one way. Syntactically, these three are valid. Okay. Okay, okay or not? How to create the variable. Then the next one is like how to create the function in your JavaScript. How to create the function. Here there has one function keyword is there. See here you can get the helpers and everything. Just you can use it. Function keyword to create the function. Function f1. You can write your function name. Your function name same like you see how you write. Same like this. Same syntax you can follow. In C, this keyword is not there. Just here you have to add your C keyword. That's it. Okay, f1. This is my function representation. I want to write some set of statements here so that you can write like a function body. This is your simple function syntax in your JavaScript. Here function keyword, this is my function name and this is my function body. Inside this function body, just you can write your statements. Console.log of f1 called. Okay, now see here. Here, this is the statements. How many lines of code is there here? How many lines of code is there here? There has three lines of code is there here. One, this is the one, another one is this one, another one is this one generally. Okay, in your console, if you execute a set of statements, okay, that statements execution is completed. One confirmation if you want, okay, I need some confirmation as a developer. Okay, I'm writing the program, right? Yes, all the statements executed, all the statements executed like this. I need one confirmation so that if I click on enter, this undefined gives me like a confirmation message. Yes, all these three statements executed. All these three statements executed. For example, okay, here you can write like okay, console.log of one. This is one statement. Console.log of put two statements, right? If I click on this one, yes, one first statement executed and print one. Second statement executed, printed two. Okay, undefined is nothing but yes, these two statements executed. For example, here if you put like console.log of one, in between there has okay, you can raise an error. Okay, var n console.log of okay n dot length like this. If you put now see here console.log message is like one var n one variable created. Can anyone tell what is my n value? You created one variable without initialization. Okay, then that what is my n value? my n value is like undefined. Okay, the default value for this particular variable which is not initialized, the default value for the variable in JavaScript is what? Undefined. Now see here, undefined is nothing but there is no data, nothing. On undefined, if you perform any operation, then the time it gives me an error. Here undefined not came. Why? Because see, all statements, how many? One, two, three, four statements are there. My four statements not executed. First statement executed, the second statement executed, my third statement throws an error or not. Okay, then that time see my statements not executed, there is no undefined, nothing. Undefined, if you see, is nothing but yes, my statements executed, execution completed. How many statements are there? Okay, here the same thing. Okay, I'm going to put like Sachin for example. My name equals to my n equals to what now? Sachin. Now my n value is like Sachin. My n dot length is like what? Okay, 6 or something. Okay, and then my console dot log is like 2. Now all statements will execute. See, first statement 1 now. The second statement is like one variable created. My third statements I printed like that variable length to 6. My console dot log of what? 2. That means all statements execution completed or not. Then the confirmation is like what? Undefined. Okay, other than that, nothing here. Okay, this is the one. Now come on, now if you come here, this is my function. See, you created one function, that means just you loaded one function. You loaded one function, that's it. Okay, once my function created, okay, that means it's not providing any service. That means the function body is not executed. Doesn't mean okay, function execution is not completed. Okay, function just you loaded, that's it. If you want to get the services from this particular function, what we have to do generally in C or Java or whatever it is, okay, you have to call this function or not. You have to call this function. Okay, then only you can get the services from this particular function or not. You write the function is nothing but just some of the statements you return, okay, which is related to one functionality, which is related to one functionality. If you want to get that functionality, if you want to get the services for your services from this particular function, how we can do it means you should have to call this function or not. Okay, how we can call it? Okay, see, my f1 is my function. See, my f1 is function or not. If you want to check, see my function also on variable only f1. If I click on enter, now see, this is my function or not. My f1 hold with one value that is called as a function f1. See, f means function where x equals to 10. X equals 10. See, my x is what? My x value is like 10 or not. Okay, my x holded with what? Holded with which value? 10. Same like this, here also function f1 is there. Here also function f1 is there. My f1, my f1 holds what? One function or not. See, this is the function. Here my x holds with what? 10 or not. So that it's like 10. The difference between f1 variable and x variable is what? My x variable holds a number. Here my f1 holds what? One function or not. One function or not. If you have a number, if you have a number, then the time you can use that number wherever you want. Okay, you can use this x how many times you want, that many times you can use it. If you have a function, then what you can do? If you want to get the services from this particular function, what we have to do? You should have to call that function or not. So how you can call it? My function name is like f1. If you want to call the function with this parenthesis, you can call it or not. Now see, once you call this f1, now my function body will execute or not. Inside my function body, f1 called is my text. Now see this. If I click on this one, see my f1 called executed or not. This is the way you can create a function in JavaScript, and this is the way you can call a function in JavaScript. Okay, same like any programming language, if you know. Okay, JavaScript is very simple thing. Just syntactical, there has some changes out there. More than that, nothing. Okay, understand or not? Okay, this is the way we can call it. We can define it. This is the way we can call it. Okay, now different types of functions are there. Okay, think. I have one function is there. I have one function f1 is there. Here my console.log of multiple statements are there, 5,000 lines of code. Think, okay, here I'm not able to write 5,000 lines of code. Think here 5,000 lines of code. Finally, I have one result value, console.log of 10. Total think, my f1 which contains how many lines of code. This is like 5000 lines, and this one is like a 5000 lines plus 1, total 5001 lines of code is there. 5000 lines, 5001 lines of code is there total. Okay, my f1 contains 5001 lines of code. So I want the result. What is the result here? The result is like 10. Okay, I want this result. So what I can do? I want this result. What I can do? If you want to get the result, if you want to get the services from this particular function, you have to call it or not. So I can call it. Yes. If I call this function, my function body will execute total how many lines of code executed? Total how many lines of code executed? 5001 lines of code executed. After that, I can get the result is what? Okay, 10 in my console or not. Okay, done. Expected only. I want that result. Now, I want this result not only one time, okay, 10 times I want, for example. I want this result 10 times, 10 places I want within the page. 10 the time, again, after some time, if you want the result, what we have to do? Again, you have to call my F1 or not. There is no other option for me. So, if I call my F1 again, how many? 5001 lines of code executed or not? Again, for the same result. What's my result here? My result is like 10 or not. Like this, how many times? 10 times you are going to call is nothing but how many lines of code will execute each and every time for the same result. 10 into 5000 lines of code will execute or not. Okay, overall 50,000 lines of code executed for this particular same result 10 or not. Okay, lines of statements is going to execute is nothing but it takes some time. It's going to impact on your performance or not. So what I can do is there any other approach is there. What I can do, what changes you want me to do here to get the result 10? Okay, can we do one thing? This result I want 10 times. Okay, can we write like this? Instead of giving the result in the console, can we return this 10? Return this 10. One function can return one value. One function can return one value. Now what I'm going to do is, here, come. First this is my function. If you want to get this result, what you can do? You should have to call it. There is no other option for the first time. Okay, just you can call it. Just you can call it. If you call my F1, how many lines of code executed? As usual, 5001 lines of code executed. But here the thing is, my F1 returns some value or not. Returns some value. Any function returns something. If any function want to give something, you can hold. If they give, you can hold it. Hold with what? Hold with one variable. Okay, you can hold with one variable, result variable. Now, at the time of calling my F1, 5001 lines of code executed, it returns a variable, returns a value 10. That value you can assign to what? Result. Now, how many times you want? 10 times you want that result. Now tell me, do you want me to call my F1 10 times again? Not required. Why? Because my F1 method returns me some value. That value hold with one of the variable called as a result. So finally my result is inside. Okay, my 10 is inside what? In the result variable or not? Now onwards 10 times just I'm going to use, I'm going to print like what? Console.log of result. My result is like what? 10. 10 times you can print this one. So overall how many lines of code executed in this case? Only 5001 lines of code executed first time. After that is like single statements only. This is like 10 statements or not to get the result. Okay, here 50,000 lines of code execute for the same result 10 times. Here 5001 lines of code execute. Okay, 5010 lines of code execute or not. Which one is the recommended one? Obviously this one only or not. Okay, so when you go for return value means any function gives some result back to you. Okay, result, a function is nothing but what? Some functionality. Okay, it's going to return some data. Okay, that result if you want in future purpose. Okay, if you want for future. Okay, 10 times or 100 times I'm going to use that result. Then the time don't call that function each and every time. Okay, just return that result. Okay, and hold that result with one variable. You can use that variable wherever you want. You can use that variable wherever you want. Okay, that is the return value, return keyword usage. Okay, now see the difference between this function and this function. This is my f1. Okay, this is my f2. F1 is not return any value, f2 is return some value. See, you created two functions. The function which is not written any value, if you call it, see how it looks like means, see, 5,000 lines of code executed. Okay, my result 10 printed within the console or not. Okay, now F1 not written anything. Still, I am going to hold with one variable, result one. Result one, I hold with one variable. Can anyone tell what is my res1 value? My f1 returns anything here. My f1 doesn't return anything. If you not written anything, even function not written anything, still you are trying to hold with one variable, then the time, okay, there is no written value, nothing. So what is the default value for this particular variable in your JavaScript? What is the default value for my JavaScript variable? It's a result variable default value. It's like undefined or not. It's like undefined or not. So any function not written anything, still you are holding with one variable. Okay, then that time the variable value is like undefined. Okay, now if you take my f2, if you take my f2, now you can call my f2. Now see, 5,000 lines of code executed 10. Okay, here also same 5,000 lines of code executed 10. See here, you print your console message, then only my 10 is printed. Here, my written value directly print in your console. It's going to show my f2 return some value. Now I'm going to hold that value with one result. Result 2. Now see here, 5,000 lines of code executed. Here my 10 not printed now. Okay, what you did? You hold this 10 with one variable or not. Now instead of printing here, instead of showing here, my JavaScript compiler just assign that 10 to this variable. Okay, here see my 10 is not there. See the difference. Without holding my f2 value, then the time 5,000 lines of code executed, you not hold. You didn't hold anything. So that it's like 10 directly it's printed here. Now f2 I am calling, I hold that written value with res2. So you are going to hold with res2, then there is no need to print here. See, now my res2 contains what now? My res2 contains your result or not. Here how many times you want, that many times you can use it. This is the way you are going to handle your written values in JavaScript. Okay. Okay, then the next thing. Now this one is like a function with return type, without return type. The next thing is function with arguments are there. Arguments. Let's see this function F1. When you go for arguments, can anyone tell? When you go for arguments, okay. Here the value is like a equals to, here my value b equals to 20. Okay, I created two variables c. I want to write some other statements also. Okay, I want to write some other statement also, but unexpectedly just I click on enter. If I click on enter button, whatever the statements are there, that statements will execute it. Yes, the statements executed, but I want to add some more code. Then how we can? If you want to get the previous code, you can use up arrow and down arrow. See here, I'm clicking up arrow and down arrow. Now see the previous code, you can get it or not. Here you can add some statements. I want to go to the next line. How we can go to the next line? Okay, don't click on enter. If I click on enter, see I clicked on enter, it's executed. Okay, don't click on enter. If you want to get the previous code, you can click on up arrow and down arrow. Okay, come down wherever you want. Click on shift enter. Then that time it comes to the next line. My cursor placed into the next line. Shift enter. Okay, here I'm going to write like console.log of a plus b. A plus b. Okay, done. Now this is the function, okay, which contains some functionality like adding of two numbers, like adding of two numbers. Okay, the first person, okay, the first person is going to use this one. Okay, the first person is going to use this one. Yes, he is going to call it. He is going to call it. Okay, like this he is calling. Okay, well, this is my first person. He is calling my f1. Yes, he called. He can get the result. My second person also there. My second person also there. He is also called my f1. Yes, he also get the result 30. Okay, now 10 persons are there. Anyone call this my f1. Okay, always my result is like what, 30 only or not. It's a hard coded value inside my function. For example, think now these persons ask like in the past it's like okay, it's a hard coded value. Now we have our own values. I want the sum is like my own numbers. Okay, not like hard coded values 10, 20. So my first person has like two numbers, 1 comma 2. Then the time I want the sum of what? 3. Okay, you have to get the result like 3. The second one is like another one. Okay, 10, 20. Then the time my result is like 30. Like this, different values sum I want to find it. If you use the same function, Okay, then the time how we can. Okay, always my A, B values are hard coded values. Then the time A plus B is like what? Always 30 only or not. So what code change you have to do? My first person is ready to give like what? Two values to this guy, and this guy has to find the sum of those two values.